Hi, my name's Tom Hill, and I'm the artist that made the piece Fight Scene after Hiro in this year's Birds in Art exhibit at the Woodson Art Museum. So, as you can tell from my accent, I'm originally from the UK, but I now work in San Francisco and I've lived and worked here for the last 22 years. And so I've always really had an interest in birds and animals, and a lot of my work is about birds. I mostly work in wire, but I also work in wood and other mixed materials, a lot of natural materials like bone and abalone and shell and things like that that I find that I use to make details. But the pieces in this year's exhibit are made from steel wire, which is it's an industrial material that's used in the building industry and in farming and all sorts of things. And so it's really a very cheap but kind of amazing material. It's very expressive. You can basically use the wire like a drawing, and then the intention behind my work is to make a three-dimensional drawing. These pieces are based on a series of photographs by the Japanese fashion photographer Hiro. And I first saw these photos maybe 20 years ago, and at the time I loved them, but I just couldn't see how I could use them. They're so vague and kind of whirlwind-like. I think at the time my work was much more static, and I just didn't really feel like I had the technical ability to interpret them in a three-dimensional way. They were always in the back of my mind, so I revisited them and found the photographs and started drawing from them, and then was very inspired to make these series of pieces, two of which you're seeing today. So the photographs are full of movement, these amazing sort of arabesques of feathers sort of describe movement as much as form. Sometimes you can hardly see what the form of the birds is because they're just this sort of wild cavalcade of feathers. They're incredible, and they're all black and white. And so in some ways they're ideal for me to interpret in wire. I wanted to put in a little touch of color, which is the little bit of red paint on the heads. But I really wanted to kind of try and convey some of the amazing energy that Hiro maintains in the photographs. I do have a huge problem, of course, with cockfighting. It's a grotesque sport, and of course it's a hard thing to realize that it's such a beautiful thing when they're interpreted like this. And the beauty, the aesthetic side of it is something that really appeals to me, but at the same time, the exploitative aspect of it is really hard to ignore. And so I want to sort of address that in the short poem that I wrote about the piece and when I'm talking about it now. This is, it's a problematic thing for me to portray it, and I hopefully don't glamorize it. But there is a beauty in the images that's incredibly compelling that I felt that I wanted to interpret, but I still do so with a reservation. That being said, I'm really delighted to have the pieces in the gallery and really hope that you enjoy them, and thank you for listening.